Welcome to the Gen Z Show. I'm your host, James McLamb. I'm here again with Sarah Beth McLamb, my daughter, and recent graduate from North Carolina State University. Looking forward to being a teacher this year in the public school classrooms in North Carolina. How are you doing, Sarah?
Well, with that introduction, public schools, I sound crazy, but I'm doing pretty well. all,
Well,
all
Sarah,
staying here.
Sarah Beth, I want to ask you a question. Be truthful with me. Do you think you had a crazy cool that you have a crazy cool family?
Well, I would say crazy, yes. Cool, yes. Crazy,
Hey,
cool, not sure. You have a shirt from the mountains that say, this crazy family. I promise I'm not the crazy one. I'm the cool one or something. That shirt
yeah, I do have a
definitely
T-shirt like
does.
that. There's something like that. Well, today I interviewed for our show Don and Suzanne Manning, and I just want to tell you that this was one of my favorite interviews I have ever done. They have started a nonprofit called Crazy Cool Family, and Crazy Cool Family has a mission. I really want to read what they said. They said the strength of your family will be determined by the strength of your family relationships. And their goal is to help you rethink and redo your family. So it is focused first on a family that God wants you to have, where you love each other and have a God inspired purpose in your life. They have resources that they provide for families that are amazing. If anyone out there works with families or are in a family, which would be all of us, you need to listen to this podcast. You need to go to their site. We've got lots of links down in the show notes that are related to the things that they are willing to share with you and insightful you. You're going to love our interview with the Mannings of Crazy Cool Family. Don, Suzanne, welcome to the Gen Z Show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be my guest today.
Sure.
Thanks for
Well,
inviting us.
Well, let's do a shout out to our mutual friends, David and Kanya Wright. They
We
really
love
knew
the
that.
rights.
Yes, absolutely.
If you want to know some right people, they are the right people to know.
Exactly, that's right.
They even
Mr. and Mrs.
that's
Wright.
what they call themselves in their marriage. That they're excellent marriage coaches. They've helped us so much over the last few years with our marriage, and we're so grateful to them.
Yeah.
I've been friends with the Wrights almost 9 years, Kanya and David, and we met at a certification class years ago, and David and I have been to a lot of conferences and stuff together and had opportunity to share. And David is working with us now to build a content that we're doing in the project. But thank you guys for being here. And David really said, he said, James, if you're going to create resources for future youth coaches, people who want to invest their time in helping youth, you need to connect with the Crazy Cool Family people.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, first off, when he said that, I thought he was just describing you. These are crazy cool people.
we're crazy cool, yeah.
But then he said, go to crazycoolfamily.com. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we connected. So thank you guys.
Well, people ask us how we came up with that name, because some people even say, I don't want my family to be crazy.
It's enough crazy.
Yeah, but the reason we came up with that is because it's as we raised our 7 kids, we started to say, hey, this really is a crazy cool deal. Crazy in that different. God's ways are different. And they really are. He asked us to do some crazy things to build a family and to build our lives. And cool just because when you raise a godly family and families working well, it's just the coolest thing you ever do.
It's set apart. It's something you want to be involved with or a part of. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's crazy cool.
Oh, well, what was the inspiration for this? What started this whole idea of we want to get together and create an organization to help families be crazy and cool?
Right.
Well, it started with, as we had more and more kids, we had to figure out how to play zone instead of man to man and how to figure all this out. I mean, it really was crazy. We were overwhelmed as parents and really just asking a lot of parents about how they did it. And we were reading and going to seminars and doing all those things. And then over time, as our kids grew up, people started asking us those same questions. We had godly teenagers, and they were saying, "Hey, what are you guys doing? What's different?" And it just developed a heart in us to say, God's given us a gift
Right.
of family. He's given us this precious gift of a family that gets along, a family where the kids love Jesus. And so we just started asking the Lord, what do we do? How do we summarize what we've learned to give back to the generation coming back? We feel blessed by the Lord and so grateful to the people that went before us and taught us so many things that we started thinking about how do we give back. And we've always just loved family. And so it was just a way that we were able to minister. We just felt like that's where God was leading us in our ministry.
So you come up with this concept and your idea. How did it move into being in the format that it is right now?
Yeah, so
it started with a book. So we wrote a book, Crazy Cool Family.
well, even before that, though, really what happened was we
true.
developed a class for church. So it came out of church ministry. So we just decided, we said, okay, where's God going with this? And this was 12, 15 years ago. And we just developed a class a 12-week class that is still what we teach today, but refined. And then we just started doing that to whoever would listen at our church, at our Christian school, or wherever, whoever would listen to us. And then I was actually, one of the elders of our church just said, man, you guys should really write a book. And we were like, man, I was like, I work for a living. We got 7 kids. Lord, we have no margin to write a book. There's no way it could ever happen. But God orchestrated some things where I could take a step back from my career. Our kids were getting a little older, so Suzanne and was able to give some margin as well. And we just sat down and started to, over the course of about a year and a half, in about 2017, and we hired an author to help us, and we wrote our book, Crazy Cool Family.
And what's neat about the book is that, like Don said, we have 7 kids, 4 daughters, and then 3 sons. And that's just how God lined it up, which is such a sweet gift. But they helped us write the book. So in the book, you've got Don will write his perspective of the situation. And then a couple of the kids will have written their perspective of the situation too. And so it's kind of an all around idea of what we think or how family perceives different situations.
Well, and even that, James, it was like we just involve our family in everything we do. It's one of the things we teach families is we ask our kids. So that when we started to write a book, we said, "What should we write?" And so and I said, "I don't have the margin." So
I said, all the stuff you messed up on. We're like, oh, okay.
But Molly, our oldest daughter, she started writing the book, and so she wrote like 5,000 words of material, and so and that led me to think. And Suzanne and I were talking about, hey, we need to take this and incorporate it into our book. Well, then all the other kids wanted to play along too, and so it became this.
We made the younger ones play.
Yeah, exactly. The girls were much more interested than the boys, but that led to our book. And then after that, we and what the book allowed us to do is really hone our message, is to make it. And we're going to talk about the 2 key words, the 3 key commitments, our Crazy Cool Family house, our family dashboard, all these things, because we wanted to give people simple illustrations that are profound truths, but are simple illustrations, so we can remember them. And when we're in the throes of parenting, as you have been there, James, and you know that, and all our parents have been there, and young people are going to be there, you remember those things. And so, but that led to us forming a 501c3, Crazy Cool Family. And then as we talk to young people and focus groups and things, are like, it's all about video. Yes. It's all about audio. It's all about, we read some, but we listen and watch a lot. And so that led us to create our podcast, and then eventually our membership site, which we call BaseCamp, where we put all our core teachings there. So that's kind of how all the ministry evolved. And I guess I'll just summarize it too, to say that years ago, God gave us a calling for family. Right. He gave us a calling for children. He gave us and I think God works in waves and themes. And that's just been a theme of we've always loved family. We did children's ministry at our church for 15 years. We just always have done things to invest in family. And this is just a continuation of where God's working.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting to see that. It's so exciting to see how God has just kind of led you through that and opened these doors that you weren't looking for. I love it when that happens. And then that you're able to take advantage of opportunities. And I wasn't thinking I was going to be doing that. Somebody come to you
Yeah.
20 years ago and said, hey, you guys are going to have a platform, a worldwide platform in which you're going to be able to teach God's truths to people about their family. You probably would have thought, okay.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Yeah, just taking it one step at a time.
Yeah, we probably thought that would have been something some already established organization would be doing, not us in there. So
Well, and you just like with your podcast, I mean, couldn't have happened 20 years ago. We didn't have the technology
yeah,
that allows people like us that just have and we didn't create anything as much as we just compartmentalized it into a message. It's
Right.
it's not something we thought of. It comes from scripture first, but it also comes from the lessons we've learned from so many parents and books we've read and conferences, and kind of honed it into a message that we hope can help parents not have to go out to all those places, but go to a source and say,
right,
oh, wow, this is how we can do it, making it easier for parents.
right. That is a great concept. Just make the opportunities to learn easier for people.
Right. And
So they
that was
don't
a
have.
big focus of ours, is that, I mean, there's so many different philosophies of family and things like that. And what we found is that when you ask Jesus what was most important about life, he said in Matthew 22, he said relationships.
Mhm.
He said, love God, love others. He didn't say, so many parents focus on obedience. Jesus didn't focus on obedience. He focused on love. And obedience came from love rather than love comes from obedience. And we just started, that was a big shift in our parenting. And really, I always say that my wife knew it years before I did. But I always say I learned, everything I learned about parenting is from God and my wife, not necessarily in that order. And so but we started to shift and just focus on connecting with our kids rather than controlling them. And all of a sudden, we saw great results, because when we connected with their hearts and we connected them to Jesus, they started living a life for themselves, and they became so much easier to parent. I mean, wouldn't you say that's a good summary?
Yes, I would. And I just think that even to build off of that as well, it's about the relationships. And even going back to how Crazy Cool Family came into existence, we were very dependent on the relationships, on the families that had gone before us, that had
Mhm.
raised godly children, that had raised kids that loved them and had a good relationship with them. And we basically cornered them into our house and said, how did you do it? And what did you do? And that's what Crazy Cool Family is. That's what our base camp is. That's what our book is about. It's about our experiences that we've had, our successes and our failures, and that we want to share them with the parents out there so that they now have somebody to go to. I think that as the world's gotten bigger through technology, it's gotten smaller through relationship. And so that's
Mhm.
what Crazy Cool Family offers, is it offers an experience-based relationship for parents to come to and learn from and glean from the wisdom that we, once again, from our failures and successes.
So, what do you see as some of the issues and problems that families are facing right now that this kind of platform can help them with? Because
Well,
we've got some of our viewers and listeners already interested, but they're thinking, is this going to fit our situation?
yeah, I mean,
Right.
if you think about it, if you read just about kids going into college, there's more anxiety, more
Yes.
depression, more suicide. Used to it was drugs and alcohol and sex, and those are still issues. Don't get me wrong, but now you're dealing with a lot more relational
Right.
issues that are
Breakdowns.
relational breakdowns, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, what we address, that doesn't have to happen,
Right.
and it's happening to a lot of Christian homes.
And the relationships start in our home. And I think that we forget that, or we don't realize that. And I think that, like, when we were growing up, the school and the church and the community and the coaches, everybody had a part in raising the child up and creating those
Mhm.
sound, confident, secure relationships to help build the child. That's not happening today anymore. Or, I mean, not to bash our school systems, but where they're not on the same pages as Christian parents anymore. And the social media is against us, and the entertainment is coming at us, and it doesn't have our same morals and values anymore. It's teaching warped relationships. And so
Yes.
that's the
I
family
mean, James,
starts the
yeah,
relationships.
James, wouldn't you say you deal with young people all the time? Compared to a decade ago, let's say, is the culture easier or harder to deal with?
it is so much more difficult for them to manage. The problems are timeless. They're the issues and problems that have happened, you know,
Yeah.
really eternally. During when the shutdown started in our school system, my youngest daughter, who's 11, and she was 9, of course. Then when it started, we started watching, morning television with each other at 7 a.m. Before she started her virtual day. And Leave It to Beaver was the show that we wanted to stop.
Oh, I
And
love it. Oh,
and so
wow.
I'm watching and I'm listening to this, and they set up a problem that the kids are having every day, and how the dad or mom is going to solve it. That's pretty much the premise of every show. Problem. And a lot of the issues and problems are self-image, that the kids don't know. They don't know who they are yet. The relationship problems, those are kind of funny stuff, but it's always that. Or motivation. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know if I should do this. I don't know how. And I thought, these things have not changed.
Right.
They're just, they're manifested themselves in such different ways. And Don, I love what you said, that the problems are moving towards more relational problems now.
Yeah. And what we found is, you're asking how we address that. So whether it's a young person or a parent, the problem is solved. The outside problem is solved by the inside heart.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a parent, what we tell our parents, for example, is the best thing you can do for your family is to present them the healthiest version of you. That we get healthy first as parents, then we can build a healthy family, that we work on the inside, on the hearts of our kids, so that they can go conquer the world outside. So often the parents want to control the outside. They don't want to work on themselves first, and they certainly don't want to work on the heart of their kids. They want to work on, if that teacher messes up, that parent's going to go fight the teacher, not help the kid deal with the issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my dad and mom would never have done that.
No, you were the problem.
Yeah, there was an issue. It was my issue. It wasn't because Miss Adams or Mr. Hall had a problem. It was me.
Right.
Well, and so often, what we tell parents a lot is that if we'll build it right on the inside, we'll face anything on the outside.
Right.
And we equip our kids to go into the world. And Suzanne makes a statement that we say that when the kids come in, our job as parents is to wash the world off of them so that they can go out inspired. Mm-hmm. Instead, many times for parents, and even in Christian homes, the home's the worst place a kid's coming to, because he or she's going to be criticized the most. He or she's not going to be communicated with because the parent's busy, or all they can do is lecture them on what's not right in their lives. And we just try to flip that in parents. We call it rethinking the way you do parenting and rethinking the way you do family, because if we can get that parent to become more encouraging, more inspiring, instead of more lecturing and distant, it's amazing what happens. And the kids are crying out for it.
Right.
Suzanne was at a Christian school for 5 years talking to teenage girls. Tell them about your experience there.
Well, so many times the girls would come into my office and they would share this with me, and I would say, "Are you talking to your mom about this?" And they said, "I would never talk to my mom about this. Mm-hmm. I would never share this with my parents." And that was foreign to me, because I had the relationship with my mom that I could talk to her, and I had a relationship with my daughters that I was talking to them. And I said, "Help me understand why that is." And they said, "Because I would get in trouble, I would get grounded, they would be mad at me, I would disappoint them, they would be sad, they would wish I wasn't their kid." I mean, the sentences went on and on and on about their identity and who they thought they were. And it wasn't a positive thing coming from their parents. And so I had to flip that. There was one time that I was talking to a girl, or I was actually talking to the mom, and the mom was sharing with me her beliefs about God and how she was sharing that with her daughter. And then when I pulled the daughter in to try to bridge the relationship, the daughter said, "I don't want to believe in the God that my mom is basically showing me, because that is a harsh, mean, hateful God." And I just started bawling, and I said, "Believe in my God." Believe in the God that loves you and that accepts you and knits you together in your mother's womb and has a purpose and a plan and a direction for you. My God sees you as a daughter of the Most High King.
And James, if you were to ask so many parents that we talk to all the time, "Hey, did you know you're doing that to your kid?" They'll be like, "No, I love my kid.
Right.
I want the best for my kid." And so really, we don't tell tell parents to work harder at parenting. The parents we're dealing with, most of them are very engaged and they love their kids.
Right.
It's really a matter of rethinking the way, just like God asked us to rethink the way we do life, we ask parents to rethink the way they do parenting. And
well, so with parents, they do what they've known. They do how they were parented. They do what they think is best. And we go after, as parents, we go after the behavior, the outward appearance. And so we need to go after the inward, like David, God went after his heart. That's what we're talking about when we say rethink.
Is that making sense to you? I mean,
we're talking.
Passionate.
Yes, we love so. Point us in a direction.
Oh yeah, it's making sense. I've got notes here, and I'm not doodling, guys. I'm actually taking notes.
Yeah. How do you get these people to shut up? Okay.
No, it's like this was. I kept thinking this is hashtagable. It's the outside problems are solved by the inside of the heart. Oh, that one is like, wow, that's so okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go.
Well, I was going to say, so now we've got some listeners, viewers. Okay, they've heard the little intro. Now they see a need for it. What's BaseCamp going to give them?
Well, and I want to talk to the young people first.
Oh, yes.
And say, we'll talk to parents in a minute because that's the heart of our ministry. But young people think, oh, I can't have an influence on my family. And I'm like, wrong, buddy. You can have a huge influence on your family by
you are having an influence, it just depends on what kind of influence you want to have. So have a good one.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he has a son, so second wife. So, and his new wife and the ex-wife just hated each other. I mean, absolutely hated each other. And so the kid from the first marriage, the son, goes to his stepmom and says, hey, Mom, can you do me a favor? And the stepmom says, sure, anything. He goes, would you be nice to my mom?
Wow.
And he goes, I don't know if she can do it, but I think you can. Mm-hmm. And she's like, and she just starts bawling. I mean, thinking about how the impact of her relationship was impacting her stepson. And so she goes and sets a meeting up with the ex-wife, and the ex-wife is just ready for bear when she meets him. And she goes to the ex-wife and says, I'm so sorry. Would you forgive me for all the things I've done to damage this relationship? I'd like to start fresh. And of course, then the ex-wife starts bawling, and they're good buddies, and they have a great relationship. And not only that, the stepmom, my friends tells me, it really catapulted her relationship with God because she saw God heal a relationship. She saw the work of God. So young people, you don't think, just by going in and honoring your parents, even though they're difficult and they're not listening to you, or they're telling you when you go in and you do the right things and you're sharing your heart with them and you're being nice to your brother and sister. One of the things we talk about at Crazy Cool Family a lot is siblings as best friends. When you honor that younger brother or sister you have, or you respect your older brother or sister, huge impact. So it's not just parents we're talking to today.
Well, I think that young people I think that you guys maybe underestimate the influence and the power that you do have with your parents. I know we have a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old in our house, and I'm asking for their advice all the time because this world that I live in, this technological world, is foreign to me, but this is their home. This is what they've grown up in. And so I value their opinion. And so young people, don't underestimate your parents' need for you, and your input. They value it.
Absolutely. And they want your approval just as much as you want theirs.
They do. Yeah. I want to be cool and relevant.
I can testify to that as well. Years ago, we laid down what our family values were, or our family was about, our mission, so that any decisions that we had to face, we could see it through. And we did it as a group. There are 5 of us. I have 3 kids. And the youngest one is there's 7 years difference between number 2 and 3. She was probably 4 at the time. I think she was 4.
Right.
The input that she gave as we were starting to define who we were as a family was shocking to me and overwhelming to me. I would listen to her, and then I would look over at her brother and sister, and first they would be like, what? Where's that coming from? How does she know that? And then it upped the ante for them, was like, well, I'm not going to let the 4-year-old, here I am. I'm 14, the oldest, I'm 14. I should be providing more input than this. And so she was impacting. And then another way to testify is that my son graduated in the spring. And with all the shutdowns and stuff, you can imagine what his last year and a half was of school.
Wow.
Missing out on so many things. So his first semester of his college experience this past fall was less than what he wanted it to be. It was not as successful. I think he would admit I was not at all where it was close. And he was, you could withdrawn, and it was not working. And so over Christmas, we were trying to come up with some strategies to try to figure out how to work with that. He was staying at home and going to local school because he just wasn't ready for that kind of transition. And I can go in that whole thing about how youth are just not at that particular age, especially that age.
Yeah.
The ones who have just graduated are not prepared for that transition because they are not having those little things happen to them. But his older sister, who graduated college a semester early, who had just graduated, I said, well, would you mind having an academic coach? And he was like, okay. Who's dad going to hire? I was like, I'm going to hire your sister if you'll let her. I said, I'm going to pay her. I'm going to lay down the stipulations with her. This is what I expect from the person I'm hiring. And then you two work it out. Don, Suzanne, he went from struggling to being top of his class. He is making outstanding A's. She is on him consistently. But they have when they were younger, they used to say, they're 3 years apart, they used to say they were each other's best friends, even when they were middle school and high school. So it works now as they
love it.
and she's able to pull out of him stuff that my wife and I don't think we're going to connect with.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we talk about at Crazy Cool Family is how to teach your siblings to invest in each other instead of fight with each other.
Exactly.
Be best friends.
Yeah. And when they invest in each other and when they look out for each other, they do things parents can't even touch. And that's one of the benefits of having a large family and especially we've seen our daughters just so invest in our younger sons. And even though there's a big age difference, because you did the same thing, James, and that's one of the things that we want to teach parents is you create this culture of where that's the norm. That's what they know. We don't, one of the things Suzanne came up with years ago is the Manning name. And because you're a Manning, you do these things. Because you're a Manning, you don't do these things, and you elevate them to a higher purpose. And one of the things Mannings don't do is they don't fight with their siblings, and not only do we not do that, but we invest in our siblings. And you create that, you've done it too. You create that culture, and it's so possible. Parents are talking to us all the time. My kids keep fighting all the time. I'm like, great, you got the power to change that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they still argue. They do all that kind of stuff, which is normal. I mean, it's nothing ever gotten out of hand with any of them. But she's having a much deeper impact on him. And the oldest is really, and I've been telling her for the last couple of years, you set the tone for these three. And you have a greater impact on them right now, especially the youngest one. There's 10 years difference, in the girls. So,
well, and so often
she idolizes her older sister. So the youngest.
Yeah, and so often parents today are like, I don't want to put that responsibility on my kid. Oh. But you know what? When they have purpose, they have life. And so and what happens in a lot of families is there's no purpose in family. And so what do kids do? They get bored, they fight, they do all the things. But when you flip it to, we tell our older kids all the time that other than mom and dad, you will have more influence in the life of your younger sibling than anybody else in the world. What are you going to do with that influence? Do you want to hurt them? No, I love them. I want them to be. Do you want them to be lack confidence? Do you want them to? No. Okay, then if you want that, what are you going to do to invest in it? And then that flips their thinking to where they want to do and they want to help.
James, I love it. I love it that you saw the problem with your son and that you looked within your family to find a solution. That you used a relationship that was already built, that was already solid, somebody that he would trust, and that you even chose to use resources instead of going outside the family. Well, that is necessary at times. There's experts
It
out there
is.
that we need. I mean, for sure, but your first step was within your family, and that you even compensated her for that so that she saw it as this is a real live job. This is a real live opportunity for me to invest in my brother, but I'm also being held accountable by a paycheck. So there's so many things that are brilliant about that.
Absolutely.
Like, well done. I mean, that
I
is
even gave her incentives if he reached certain benchmarks.
wow.
I said, if he does this, you get this kind of bonus and this kind of bonus.
So
She's like, all right.
that is brilliant. And so just people that are, you're listening out there, just listen to that and know that God is actually giving you everything you need, on the, for sure it's step one within your family to help your family, heal your family, coach your family, all the things that need to happen within your family. And then if you can't make it happen, then look outside the family. So brilliant. Well done.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. Still in the middle of it, but it's looking good so far.
Well, and so James, what would you do? I think it's also, it brings up a great point. Sometimes we give those things to our kids, and maybe it's not a mentorship lesson, but maybe it's taking out the trash or something like that. What if she fails? What if she doesn't do what she's going to do? How do you handle that with her?
Yeah, I've never had to really considered it that she would fail, just because of her nature. She's a very much she graduated top of her class, was one that her outstanding senior award at her university. She meets every goal she sets. And so for her, I just needed to lay out the challenge and lay out, why she is the right person for that. If there was not success, it would be whether or not there was something on his end. Are you not taking this seriously enough? Are you not investing in this? Were you really committing to it when you said, I will commit to doing this? Or were you just saying what you needed to say to get dad out of your face? So that was it. And I don't want anyone who's listening to think, oh, you're blaming one and when they're working together. I just know the situation. And it might be, that I would have to look and say, okay, to my daughter, your techniques may be off. You may be handling it too much. There may be some things we need to tweak on that.
Because she's a high achiever. And if her brother doesn't respond, she's going to take it back on herself, think she's failed dad and, things like that, because high achievers tend to be perfectionists, tend to do that. And he could bring failure because, he doesn't feel like he's measuring up to both of your expectations. And one of the things we just talk about a lot is allowing your kids to fail, allowing them to make the mistakes and learn from them, and not, just being a lot of the big lecturer so that you can, because it just drives them further away from you.
So
and in their relationship, he's always gone to her first if he got in trouble too.
Yeah. Cool?
Okay, I got to tell mom and dad that I did this. What should I do? Okay. And sometimes she'll say, well, I'll go with you. And I'm like, really?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm fine with that. I love that.
Well, so another thing I want to bring up, James, that is amazing is that your kids and their qualities, their strength and their weaknesses. And so you've matched them. And that's what we talk about at Crazy Cool Family, is knowing the differences and then saying, okay, you're really good at this and you're not. So let's match you guys up so you can help each other. So once again, you're knitting them together, but they're working on a purpose, having a project together. But what's beautiful is that as the parent, we get the first opportunity to know our kids, to know what they're good at and what they're not good at, and how to build that up and what are the best ways to build that up. And so I love it that you even saw that with those two and said, okay, you're failing here, but you were actually a huge success here. So let's match you guys up.
Absolutely.
We had a
So-
daughter that was a perfectionist, and we couldn't come down hard on her at all. We couldn't punish her. We couldn't, because she was so hard on herself. And so we had to know that. And so as parents, you have to know what your kids are good at. If they're an achiever, if they're a perfectionist, if they're a procrastinator, what do you do with that child? I mean, knowing that, oh, that's where they're coming from. How do you parent that?
And so much about understanding the personalities and mindset is such a asset to be able to parent effectively. But it's not necessary. No, folks don't have to do a deep dive into it, but it is such an asset to it. So, if someone were to sign up for Crazy Cool, go through the base camp, what are they going to receive? What do they get there? What are uh,
Yeah, so BaseCamp, it's really simple to sign up. It's just basecamp.crazycoolfamily.com. And they go in, and immediately what we direct them to, there's a video when they start out that gives them some instructions on how to get the most out of BaseCamp. But really, in a nutshell, in 30 seconds, we have some core courses. If somebody gets our book and they see how we build, how we show them how to build a family, that really is in our core courses. And what's a course? A course is a series of videos. So each course, there's 10 core courses in BaseCamp. They each have 4 to 9 videos that are 10 to 20 minutes each video. So you can go through a course in about this time you would go through a movie. They're going to be, maybe 90 to 120 minutes total for each course. Now some people like to watch it all the way through. We like kind of dripping it into people one video at a time, because
So then they can do it, act out.
Yeah, because each video has a key principle, that they're going to take with them, and we're building a framework. We're helping them rethink. So those 10 core courses are there, and the cool deal about think of a membership site. A lot of people don't know what it is. Just think of Netflix, except we have parenting material on there instead of having, whatever Yellowstone or whatever the show is, or This Is Us or whatever, show that they're watching right now. And then we also have the cool thing about a membership site too is outside of our core courses, we can always build other content in there. So we have parenting videos that answer common parenting questions. We have outside resources. We have all our podcast in there and things like that. So BaseCamp it's designed to be a place where they can come and just about any kind of parenting advice they want or whatever, but really we direct them to those core courses, because that's going to be, it's kind of like going to class and building a class on how you do family and that framework to give you the way to lead your family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes good sense. So you talked about some of the core courses, and when I was going through Part Base Camp, I'm just at the beginning with, I started noticing that you'd organize things with good, memorable numbers. 2, 3, 5. And you talk. The very first thing you share with us is your 2 keywords as kind of the framework for the entire course. Share with our audience what that is and how you came up with those. And I love it. I love the way it was done.
Yeah. So our 2 keywords are relationships. Obviously, that first one it's all about relationships. In fact, the vision of Crazy Cool Family is the strength of your family will be determined, not maybe, the strength of your family will be determined by the strength of your family relationships. And so relationships are key. And it's not because we said so, like we said the first, it's because Jesus said so. Jesus said love, and love means relationship. And so we found that relationships are just central to family. But in order to build relationships, the how of building relationships is building a family culture. And we chose that word for a very specific reason. People think about how the atmosphere of the home or how a home feels. That's culture. And a lot of people in business understand it because we talk about business culture. And we talk about different. What we found is that when we think of it like a greenhouse. If we build a greenhouse, we have the right water, the right light, the right soil, the right conditions within our home. The plant's going to grow. It just can't help but grow. It's the way God made it. And it's the same thing that happens in our home. When we create the right culture in our home, relationships can flourish. And and that's part of that building the inside, because when we build those relationships, our kids are able to go conquer the world. I mean, for example, we were just talking about with you, you know your kid. And so if you know your kid, then you know what they're doing out in the world and you can help coach them on it. If there's a distance between you and your child, you don't know, and there's a lot of lying, there's a lot of misbehaving and a lot of things, and the kid's going out and getting advice from all his peers instead of his parents and making bad decisions.
That's true. Mm.
So
relationships and culture.
Relationships and culture, and then everything we do breaks down from that. You talk about our numbers. Well, we break that down into 3 key commitments and the only reason there's 3 instead of 2 is because we elevate the parent's relationship with God. And what we found is over time, we found that when parents are following Jesus, and like you said, they understand their identity, understand who they are, that they're loved by God, then that is the primary way that the parent will influence the family. When we wrote our book, we asked our kids first. We said, "What should we write? What's the thing? What do we do right as parents? What should we tell people?" And they said, "You walked with Jesus and you talked about it with us." That's the first thing they said. That we were transparent with our relationship with God, age appropriate, of course, but we just shared our life with them, and we gave them what we talk about at Crazy Cool Family a lot is we gave them a Jesus that's worth following.
Ooh.
And so our 3 commitments are pursue God, build relationships, and create culture. And so as a family or as parents, is we focus on God, we focus on the relationships, and we build the culture in our home. Then we create a place where you've got children that love each other, they love us, they love God. They're pursuing Jesus, they're pursuing us, they're pursuing each other. And that's what we wanted.
And we started building that like 20 years ago. And the cool thing about Crazy Cool Family is, and the way God's designed it is, anyone can win. Anyone can win at family. But it's been funny to us, not funny, good in a way. I mean, good in a very good way, because our sons-in-law. So we have 4 sons-in-laws now, and they come into our house. Each one of them has come into our house from a dating, relationship, and they come in. And they go, "Man, you guys are weird. You guys are so weird." I mean, we are. I've never seen this before. How we come into the house and everybody gets along, everybody's for each other, and it really is crazy, and they love it. They love coming into our home because they see an environment that's been cultivated, and that's what we teach parents to do, and it's what we learned to do from the people before us. Is how do you cultivate that greenhouse, that culture in your home, and make those relationships flourish? That's what we teach at Crazy Cool Family. That's what all the 4 courses are about.
That's was one of the goals that my wife and I had, especially when we moved to this house 15, 16 years ago, is that we wanted to make it a place that our kids' friends wanted to come because it was a fun place. And I remember our oldest, who's now graduated college, but when she was in high school, the high school is less than a mile from here. They would break for lunch, let seniors go for lunch. Well, her friends sometimes would show up at our house without my daughter.
I love it.
And we were like, there was one of them named Cindy. She would just show up and go, "Hey, how you doing?" Go straight to the refrigerator. And we were like, whatever you want, I just loved it. That the fact that there was an atmosphere created here that she felt comfortable and that she felt, okay with us, and that she still, treats us as part of her extended family, that we could have be like that. And my son has that kind of relationship with several friends where they go and spend the night with each other a lot. And,
yeah, that's beautiful. That's what we call it. We call it a safe haven, a place where the child feels listened to, where they can talk, where we'll respond to them in a safe way and not yelling and screaming and lectures and all of that stuff. And so that's one of the courses in BaseCamp.
Yeah, it really is just about trying to help. That's what's it really is like a discipleship course for family. If you think about, if somebody came to you and said, "I want to follow Jesus," you'd say, "Okay, let's talk about salvation," but then you're going to take them through steps. Okay, let's talk about being humble. Let's talk about giving. Let's talk about, all the different aspects. How about forgiveness? Let's talk about generosity, all the things that they need to be discipled on. Well, so what we do at Crazy Cool Family is we bring them in and we say, okay, family's about relationships. family's about connection, family's about love. If you believe that, that's the core. That's the salvation, if you will. I don't want to compare it to Jesus, but I mean, but then once you believe that, and then we can start walking you through. This is how it walks out. This is how it plays out, and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. But it's like Jesus. It's simple because he's simple, but it's so profound in how you implement it in your life and in your family life.
I love this concept. I love what you're doing. The family is what God established everything to be built off of. It was really the first institution he created. It wasn't in government. It wasn't business. It wasn't jobs. It was the family was first.
Yeah.
And that's where everything, the socialization, the building and character is supposed to take place. And somehow or another, at least in the last 50 years, we seem to have decided we need to delegate that out to other people.
Right.
And he built the family before he built the church. And so I think a concept that families need to understand, that parents need to understand, is things that are supposed to happen to your child about spiritual things are supposed to happen family first, not all the time on a Sunday morning or out there. It's supposed to happen here.
Right.
Before it happens there, or that's supposed to reinforce what you're teaching, not necessarily the other way around.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I get weird looks from people when I say that.
We tell parents all the time, you get to do this. It's a privilege. It's a gift that God has given us. God has handpicked you to be the mother and father for those children. He has uniquely designed and created you to call out the things that he has put in your children. You're the ones that get to do that, not have to do that, not must do that, but get to do that. And then when we look at things like that, it's like,
yeah. And we talk to a lot of beat up parents. I mean, not only do we talk to a lot of beat up young people, but a lot of beat up because they don't think they're doing enough, or they're achievers, and they think that and they don't think that they're equipped. Or they don't think you don't know my past or whatever. And we're like,
they're taking their kids' failures on as their own failures.
And so, James, sometimes I tell parents, and I say, do you think God's surprised up there? Do you think, think he woke up one day and he went, oh my gosh, I can't believe I put James in that family.
I messed up.
Wow, gosh.
I thought he would do better than that.
We just so messed up.
Your scripts are surprising me. I've never seen this before with anyone else. Yeah.
But God's not surprised. He literally handpicked the mom and dad for the family. He handpicked the kids that he gave those parents.
For the parents, I believe, actually, to mold us and sharpen us.
Yeah, and so all we have to do is walk in what God has for us. And one of our biggest jobs, and even with young people, we're like, hey, young people are like, hey, mom and dad, y'all need to go watch Crazy Cool Family because it'll help you, because the young people see it. They see the issues. The parents try to hide, and they try to, I'm going to be this way, and try to make seem better than they are. And we're like, kids see right through you.
Right.
It's going to, and so how do we? One of the things we have to do a lot, and even for ourselves, is encourage parents. You can do this.
You're doing it. You're winning in life.
Learn and shift, but you're watch God go to work is what I say a lot.
I was talking to interviewing some people who had written a book about the mindset of youth, that their teenager was not crazy, and one of the concepts they talked about that parents need to understand is the concept of and. You did some great things, and you did some things not so great. And it's okay. That if it was done with the right heart, if you were done out of love, those things that maybe were not so great are not going to detrimentally, they can be forgiven. They can be worked through. They can be helped with. It's when those bad things are done not from a heart of love, but when they're vicious and not coming from a good place that you have problems that may need to have some deeper study done with.
Versus using the word but, because when you say you did some good things, but you did these things, now all they hear is the negative.
Yeah.
See, now you've added a whole new thing to that thing. I was really excited about the and now the but with it is giving me a whole new
There
thing to
you
write
go.
about as well.
Actually, I got that from another book that said that, and it was really impactful to me because so often we talk to parents about, man, that was a great hit you had, but if you would have just swung harder, you would have hit even further. Well, what did the kid hear? They didn't hear encouraging words. The parent thinks they said something encouraging. The kid heard, I didn't do it enough. And stuff like that. And when we just flip it a little bit, encourage without any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Qualification.
Yeah.
Just encourage. Hey, that was an awesome hit. Period.
Yeah.
And then watch your kid's eyes light up. And you do that over and over, and all of a sudden your kid's inspired, and the kid thinks he can. My son, my 21-year-old son is, I coached him in basketball.
Turned 22.
Oh, he's 22. That's right. He's 22. They keep changing. They keep growing up.
Each year their age changes.
Yeah. He remembers when I coached him, and I would tell him on the basketball court, I said, that boy cannot stop you. All you got to do is take it to the basket on him. You can choose not to, but he can't hold you. And he's like, Dad, I don't know whether that was true or not, but boy, you said it. I believe it. I'm going for it, So we have such impact when we encourage our kids like that.
Such impact. Yeah.
And we can talk also about how the impact of a family can have in their community. A family that is crazy cool.
Yeah.
Can not only affect the trajectory of generations of that family, but can spill over into other folks. It's like you're a crazy. I can see this concept being a crazy cool family is being poured into so much with such good stuff that it's got to overflow somewhere, and it doesn't just overflow in one direction down the line. Maybe it overflows horizontally, and it goes to the families next door and starts infiltrating them.
Parents, for the young parents that are here that are starting to figure out, I love the fact that you said you decided on your family values. We talk about that a lot at Crazy Cool Family. What's a value? It's what's important to you, and so when you're a young parent, you're setting direction for your family. Well, so one of the things that, when I was a young parent, I was like, okay, how am I going to change the world? What am I going to do? Am I going to go into politics? Am I going to do it in business? Am I going to do it, in ministry or whatever? The Lord said, I never will forget this. I'm in my study, and I'm probably 7 to 8, 10 years into my parenting, and I'm trying to figure this out. And God said, I don't want you to do any of that as a priority. And I said, okay, maybe you can tell me what you want me to do then. And
God's finally, I've been trying.
And he goes, and he goes, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go deep with me. I want you to go deep with your family and watch what I produce and then tell people about it. And that was, and I was like, wow, I had 4 daughters at the time. I'm like, I'm going to play a lot of Barbies. I'm going to play a lot of dolls. But that's where God wanted me at the time. And my point is that when we produce godly young people, the world notices. Mm-hmm. That's what started our whole ministry.
That's right.
Is we had godly teenage girls,
right?
And people came to us and they're like, "Okay, what are you doing?" Because I'm having all these issues and I'm not seeing them. I see your child loving Jesus, loving you, loving their sisters. We need to know what you're doing. We're like, we'll figure it out and get back to you, okay? And so that's what started everything that we teach today.
Well, and that was going back to the values that you're talking about. That was one of our values, that are to raise kingdom changers, that our kids were going to go out there and they were going to be involved in the people around them. And I mean, and it's happening. One of our daughters is on staff at a church. One of our daughters is working in the University of Arkansas as a coach for engineering students to help them do exactly what your daughter's doing for your son. Our son is the chaplain of his fraternity. Mm-hmm. Our high school son has got to host a small group of teenage boys because he's got a burden for them to do the teenage years well. And so that's exactly what is as you look at your family and you say, what do I want? We want to send out warriors for the kingdom. We want our kids to fight the good fight, to be fully and completely built themselves, so that they can, like you said, the overflow, go out into their communities and show them the life, light, and love of Jesus. So
Wow.
It's working. We're
Yeah.
doing it, guys. Come on.
Yeah, raising kingdom leaders is a worthwhile investment, parents. If you're a young
So
parent and
rewarding.
you're trying to figure out
So
direction in life, the first thing like I say, God created family first. So let's make sure that we do it well in the house, and then we can do what goes outside.
Well, if people are not excited after hearing this, if they're not on fire, then their wick is wet, because something is going on. Because this is
you're gonna say they're wicked. Well, wait a minute.
No, it's wet, so they got to get it. Their candle is not working here. We've got the crazycoolfamily.com on the screen, and it'll be in the show notes as well. How else can they connect with you guys so they can learn more about this?
Yeah, Instagram, if you want to follow us on social media. We're Facebook. We've got a Facebook community we'd love for you to pop in on.
Yeah, I always say our book's available on Amazon, and it's also, you can get a Kindle copy as well. You can go to Amazon, type in Crazy
Listen to it. That's the thing now. Listen.
Well, that's the audio version. I'm talking about the Kindle version. They get it electronically, and
We don't have audio.
we don't have the audio.
of the
We don't
book
have
yet.
an
Never
audio
mind.
version. But Kindle.
You don't want me to read it for you in my accent? I think.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Actually, we're just waiting to meet you so you could read it so we can post it. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love
Hey,
it.
y'all, come and listen to this book I'm going to read here.
when-
I'm going to read.
when James beforehand, he told us he spoke 2 languages other than English, Southern and sarcasm. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, so James, the book is available and on Amazon, and just type in Crazy Cool Family Book and you'll show it. It'll show up. We also have a podcast, Crazy Cool Family Podcast. We're starting our 4th year of that. So
Wow.
we have 155 episodes. That a lot of people like to, we found with podcasts. I was just talking to my daughter Macy, who works for me, and she said that people like to start podcasts at the beginning and go all the way through. That's a big deal, because we were having some technological problems with our first podcast. So we have all our podcasts for the last.
Excuse the first ones. We were very, very green on those first ones. But just for a second on the podcast, we're doing a series right now called Fight.
Yes.
Fight for your family. And so it has been a God-inspired series that we're excited about. And we've got a bunch of different speakers coming on to show us how to fight spiritually, how to fight for forgiveness, how to fight to get God's word in your kid's heart. So we're excited about that.
So yeah, we are. And book, podcast. But what I tell people at the end of every deal, if we could put you one place, we'd put you in BaseCamp. BaseCamp.crazycoolfamily.com. Put that in the show notes for everybody. But it is just the place. There's a number of things. Our podcasts are there. Our courses are there. We can stay connected with you. We will email you, not frequently, but some, and we will email you and inspire you and encourage you. If we ever have if we ever have an event, we'll invite you into that, things like that. So if anybody goes to one place, go to basecamp.crazycoolfamily.com, get signed up, and that would be the place to go.
Guys, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. Taking a lot of notes, a lot of stuff I'm gonna have to peruse back through and see if I can actually read my scribble. Because I was trying to write down stuff at the same time and pay attention, and sometimes I'm like, well, what does that word mean? But it'll all come to me.
That's right.
But thank you so much for this. I really want to be able to help you guys share this mission. This is exciting. It's needed. It's such an important aspect. I know that churches and even those who are non-church would benefit this tremendously in this, and what a great resource for those who are not a part of a church family to be able to have this, to introduce them to a world of faith as well. So as they can see the applications that God has for their family.
And just James, we're super impressed with what you're doing too. With there is a training youth coaches to go and influence. There's in our colleges today, there's just such a fight for thought, and there's a fight for how people think and believe. And like I say, the culture is spinning down; it's not spinning up. And so, training warriors to go into that field to help influence people to just build their lives the way God would want them to is super cool. And just finally, with respect to churches, if anybody wants, we have an email. They can email me at don@crazycoolfamily.com. And if they want to connect us with their church, We do a lot of work with churches to help integrate with their small groups and integrate with their, kind of like think about Dave Ramsey or something. We
Right.
do a lot of that type work. We're not quite as structured as Dave Ramsey is, and we haven't been doing it as long. But we really love to connect with churches. And so if people want us to connect us with their small groups pastor or their children's leader or whatever, we love to talk to churches about what we're doing.
Thank you guys, and
Thank you.
again for this thing, and thank you audience for sticking with us, for being on the show, for watching and listening to us today. Listen, someone that needs to hear this message, so please comment, share, like this, and let's put the word out as much as possible. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week on the Gen Z Show.